Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Kristen Shelley Maddox, and I'm currently serving as the chair of the Shawnee Chamber's Board of Directors, and it's my honor to moderate today's forum. On behalf of the Johnson County Public Policy Council, a collaboration of all 10 area local chambers of commerce, and particularly on behalf of today's host, the Shawnee Chamber of Commerce, thank you for joining our candidate forum event featuring Kansas House District 18. I'd like to begin by sharing our format for this afternoon, which will include 2-minute opening statements by each candidate, followed by a moderated question and answer period during which the candidates will each have 1.5 minutes to respond. And finally, we'll conclude with a 1-minute closing statement from each candidate. The format, questions, and time limits will be the same for every candidate. There will be no follow-up questions, no formal rebuttal, or audience participation. Candidate speaking order has been randomly determined with the candidates and will rotate throughout the program. Now, if everyone will please take a moment to silence their phones, we will begin. First, I'll introduce our candidates in alphabetical order. This district is fully located in Shawnee and is bordered on the north by 47th Street and 75th Street to the south, and then by Quivira to the west and Knox to the east. First is Stephen Hohe, our Libertarian candidate. Steve Hohe served as the U.S. Air Force from 1980 to 1991. He earned an associate's logistics degree from the Community College of the Air Force in 1991 and a business administration degree from Husson College in 1992. Steve came to Kansas City and transitioned to civilian life, working as a clerk, painter, and sporting goods salesman. Steve also worked in telecommunications sales and later owned a metal building sales company, worked with equipment sales, and now is an independent contract courier. Steve resides in Shawnee and is married to his wife of 23 years. They have 2 boys who both graduated from Shawnee Mission Northwest and are both Eagle Scouts. Thank you. Next, our Democratic candidate is Cindy Neighbor. Cindy spent most of her career as a medical administrator for a multi-specialty group with offices in Wyandotte and Johnson counties, as well as a dental practice handling sedation patients. She also spent 9 years working for Shawnee Mission Schools in various roles while raising her children. Cindy has been married to her husband, Jim, for 54 years. They have 4 grown children who are all graduates of the Shawnee Mission School District. Cindy also has 4 grown grandsons, and her first great-grandchild is on the way. Thank you. Finally, our Republican candidate is Robert Whitman. Robert is a longtime resident of Johnson County. He received a degree in journalism from the University of Kansas and is a former sports writer for area newspapers, as well as a web applications developer. Robert is a member of Christ Community Church. With that, we will move on to the opening statements. Candidates, you will each have 2 minutes to present opening statements, and we'll start with Mr. Hohe.
Thank you. My name is Steve Hohe. I'm the Libertarian candidate running for the Kansas House of Representatives in the 18th District. As you know, I'm from Shawnee. My website is www.stevehohe4kansas.com, and that Hohe is H-O-H-E. My motto is, good governance is government well served. What is good governance? It's the process of measuring how public institutions conduct public affairs and manage public resources and guarantee the realization of human rights in the manner essentially free of abuse, corruption, and the rule of law. Now, I wanted to kind of go, you gave a bio about me, but you kind of left back in 2016, and I want to kind of expand on my time in the Air Force. Some of my things that I was a logistics specialist. I had an associate degree in logistics and in business, but also I was a squadron chemical warfare trainer. I was also an NCO Leadership Academy graduate, and I was a student of studies of the communist Soviet studies of the history, government, military, and ideologies. And my 2 campaigns that I was involved in was both Desert Shield and Desert Storm, which I was to receive the Meritorious Service Medal, but I declined it because it had Bill Clinton's name on it. Sorry. Next. Basically, you were right about the idea that I took on blue-collar work in retail sales, telecommunications, industrial tool sales, installations of heating, air conditioning, and warehouse. I did own 2 businesses. I owned a metal building business. Plus, I also was an independent contractor courier for FedEx. And just to let you out an update, I ran for state rep in 2014 against this one guy who was really bad. He was a Democrat, sorry. And the U.S. House of Representatives in 2016, 2020, 2022. I'm also an attendee of Crossroads Christian Church and a past member of the Shawnee Mission Northwest Football Roosters and the Wrestling Club. And I am an adult member of the Boy Scouts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Representative Haber.
Thank you to hosting this for today. It is a pleasure always to be here with members of the community. One of the things I will expand on is that a great-grandchild that was on the way has been delivered, and it's a little boy, Everett James. So our family is growing, and we're very proud of that. As you mentioned, all of our children went to Shawnee Mission North. My husband also went to North. He said, wherever we live, our children will go to North. So they have all been through public school. In fact, I worked for the district for 9 years. One of the fields I was in was ABD, or autistic behavior disorder. And it's really a love that I am passionate about. Autistic kids are fun to work with, challenging, but it brings relief to the parents on a day-to-day basis when you can teach them life skills. I also served for 21 years on the Shawnee Mission School Board. One of those was as vice president, but I also served during that time on the KESB board. I was president of the Kansas Association of School Boards and had an opportunity to travel around the United States to different meetings and to gain insight as to large, medium, and small school districts around our country. Being a representative is very special to me, and I want to thank all of you for giving me that opportunity. I am humbled by it. We have lots of work left to do. I am ranking on insurance. I sit on elections. I am on children and families, and I'm on energy, utilities, and telecom. All four of those have places in our business, in our homes, every single day. And I would like to continue the work that we have started and look forward to visiting or answering any questions I can to let you know more about what's happening in Topeka and in Shawnee.
Thank you. And last, Mr. Whitman.
Thank you. Thank you for the Shawnee Chamber for hosting this event. My name is Robert Whitman, and I'm the Republican nominee for District 18 State Representative. Two of the things that I've been trying to impress people at the door that answer the door when I knock on the door is we have a cost of living issues here in Kansas and all over actually. There is something the state legislature can do about that. They can do it through tax policy, and since we're at a Chamber of Commerce forum, I have a feeling we're going to be asked a lot about taxation with regards to business. We also have a public safety issues here. We've had about over 200 fentanyl deaths, according to the sheriff, in the last couple of years, and we need to make sure that we have the resources to run these people out of the state. They not only traffic in drugs, but they also traffic in adults, children, anything illicit that they can get their hands on. With respect to business issues, we'll have plenty of time to explore those with questions, but basically businesses need to be free to start, and they need to be free of government, excessive government regulation and taxes and other fees and things like that to start up and to operate. So let's explore those throughout the forum.
Thank you, Mr. Whitman. Thank you, everybody, for your opening remarks. We will now move on to our moderated question and answer portion of the event. Candidates, you will each have 1.5 minutes to respond to the question, and the speaking order will rotate with each question. I'll prompt you in case we forget the order. Our first question is, what are your views on state tax policy, being as specific as you can? Representative Neighbor, we'll start with you.
Thank you for the question. We did about $2.4 billion in tax relief last year, which I think is very important to our public. The getting rid of the tax on Social Security, state Social Security tax, was a meaningful thing to do. It will have an effect on our aging population, which we have more of now than we have in the past. We gave tax relief on home values, went from $40,000 to $75,000 as a deduction, which is good for all homeowners. And I think as we progress forward, and I didn't include all the things we did on tax, but those were a couple of the biggies. Coming up will be the food tax. It will go away January 2025, and then it will totally be gone. That is going to have an effect on everybody as they shop. And but it does not take away the tax base for the city, and I think that's very, very important, because those taxes go for snow removal, trash, road repair, all of those things at a local level. And so when we operate with taxes at the state level, we have to be ever mindful that what we do does not take away from local tax opportunities within the cities and communities.
Thank you. Mr. Whitman, again, I'll repeat the question. What are your views on state tax policy, being as specific as you can?
State tax policy takes on more than one aspect. You have income taxes, you have sales taxes, you have property taxes. The legislature had a chance to cut property taxes, or their part of property taxes, but they couldn't get agreement with the governor on that aspect of taxation. Let's see if we can go back and go back to this next session and see what kind of taxes we can cut. Every dollar that's taxed will be spent. And so inevitably, when you talk about taxes, you also get drawn into a conversation fairly quickly about spending. So prioritizing spending to find out what you need in terms of what government is supposed to be doing. The things that come to mind to me initially are roads, bridges, and public safety. I'm sure there are other state functions that are necessary, functions that we as people can't do collectively. We elect representatives to tax the entire population so that they can handle those things and administrate those things.
Thank you. Mr. Hohe, same question. Your views on state tax policy, being as specific as you can.
Well, basically the taxation has been a hot button topic for over the years. We all know the polarization of both sides with the brownback tax experiment. From what I've deciphered by the opinions and stories that were brought about, they basically did the thing with the cart before the horse. And what I mean by that is basically they cut the taxes, and then they went on a spending spree, and then they created a $300 million deficit. My question is, do we squabble about the past mistakes or work on prudently towards a better future for taxation? As other states have successfully in their budgeting, reducing spending, and adopting other means of taxation, Kansas is perpetuated by using the income tax structure. Going forward, using the hurdled approach, the budget, identifying the basics, the needs for support, present infrastructure and services, cut the pork, get rid of the special interests, and the question of spending. When we ask about spending, is it critical? If it's not critical, then we're not spending. Basically, I wanted just to bring up a thing on June 18th of 2024. The governor had special sessions with the House and the Senate, where they had to have an emergency tax structure, where they eliminated the 3-tier tax structure to a 2-tier tax structure, which is SB 1. And then they just eliminated. What this is going to create in the future is going to be a bad measure to eliminate by eliminating the middle class. There's going to be an embattlement in the state of Kansas of the rich and the poor. This process was just an absolute betrayal. But the one thing, but we have to talk about the flat tax.
Well, we'll have an additional time, but we're going to try and stick to our time frames on this. Thank you. We'll move on to our next question then. What are your views on K through 12 education funding and accessibility? Mr. Whitman, we'll start with you on that question.
K through 12 funding is for the present fairly settled issue. It's been settled in the courts, and I'm content with that. What I hear from people whose doors I knock on, they're concerned about special education funding. We should look very heavily into increasing special education funding. I mean, I'll talk about this because they asked me the similar question, and this is pretty much the answer I give them, and they're starting to nod in agreement, because I knocked on doors that people say, well, I have a son or daughter, I have a child in special education, I work in special education in the schools, and we certainly need more funding in that area. I think one of the things we need to focus on is achievement as well. So achievement seems to be slowly eroding as time goes by. More education funding doesn't necessarily translate into higher test scores or better learning. We need to prepare our youth for things that they need to succeed in our world.
Thank you. Mr. Hohe, same question. What are your views on K through 12 education funding and accessibility?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not one of these folks for the advocation of public schools. I mean, honestly, state does give a large contribution towards the education of per child, okay? My thing is I really think that we need to have ourselves children education accounts that travel with the child from kindergarten all the way up to graduation and then forward. And the thing is, they have to be things that Kansas needs, like farming and agriculture, aircraft, which is what it is, and a lot of the other supports that we need in Kansas to keep them in Kansas. And the one thing I just feel about the idea of the public school system, they're no more than just taking money, we're just giving them money and they're throwing it down into a perpetual hole. I mean, I think parents want to have control of their education of their children, the ideologies and stuff like that. They need to be educated, not indoctrinated. And I think that one of the biggest ideas I would like to see is that from kindergarten to the to the 8th grade, this would be the time that we can allow children to be educated either through homeschooling or micro schools, or even going to a religious school and paying the extra money. And then when they hit high school, because the high schools the facilities are awesome, that's where the focus has to go towards getting them both into a technical school or prep for college, and then moving them farther beyond into community college and on into the workforce.
Thank you. Representative Neighbor, what are your views on K-12 education funding and accessibility?
We finally fully funded education this last year, not special ed, but education as the courts have required. We must maintain that level. Next of all, what many people don't know is that in our high schools, especially in Shawnee Mission, we have the ability for technical training in several different areas: medical, science technology, medical technology, graphics. There's about 10 different areas, and those are at the CAA building, or the Center for Academic Study. One of the things there that has just gone wild is our food department over there. They have trained magnificent chefs that go to many special colleges around the United States. So that's one of the ways that we are facing that challenge. We understand that technical and or college prep is something that we have to offer any child. Not everybody wants to go to college. Not everybody's suited to go to college. And they need to find what they feel comfortable with. 35 years ago, the federal government said they would provide 40% for special ed. Right now, they're at 17% to support what they said they would do.
Thank you. Mr. Hohe, we'll start with you on this next question. What types of economic development policies do you support to encourage job growth and business expansion in Kansas?
Well, first and foremost, my answer is get the state government out of the way of business, okay? Just straight up. Allow business to create, grow, and develop on their own without state intervention. Basically, the thing was, it had a slogan when I was in the U.S. House in 2022, and what it was deregulate, free the market, free yourselves. One thing is I'm a believer in entrepreneurialism without barriers. I mean, that's one of the things that's happening here. We have too many barriers that the state does, that they try to block certain businesses from developing and becoming what they are today. Remember, the state, these small businesses are taxpayers. They give you taxes. Why are you putting barriers in front of them? The thing is, again, I'm saying that we have to have that entrepreneurialism without barriers.
Thank you. Next, Representative Neighbor. What types of economic development policies do you support to encourage job growth and business expansion in Kansas?
One of the things that we have to look at is where is the business starting? Goes to a planning commission within the city. They approve or disapprove depending on zoning and the needs of the community. The state does not draw that unless it is a large business like Panasonic, which came to the state for help and is a huge business that's going to employ 4,000 people. Business regulations, there are fees, there are charge-up fees, but there are also decisions made at the local level when the business starts. Entrepreneurship is extremely important. I know in Shawnee we have a lot of that going on, and we are very, very lucky that we have the kind of city council, chamber goes out and encourages people to come in and to build their business here. They want them to make their home here. It's that kind of thing that's going to bring people in to our communities, to our cities, but then also in some instances to our state. If you look at what has happened over the governor's term so far, she's brought in more than, I think, $12 billion worth of businesses, and we have received the golden shovel for 4 years in a row. That is a national award. We are doing that.
Thank you. Mr. Whitman, what types of economic development policies do you support to encourage job growth and business expansion in Kansas?
Well, I support certainly all types of businesses, from small to large, small entrepreneurial businesses to large businesses. What we need to look at is what are the barriers for entry, regulations, taxes, fees. Let's make the tax environment good in Kansas. That is one of those things that I've heard that business looks at when they decide where they want to locate. If they have a choice, if they're looking for other places other than Kansas. The big thing is we just need a soft hand of regulation and not a hard hand. Sure, we need. There are some regulations that need to be enforced, but we need to make sure that those are very light and not onerous on the businesses that wish to start and that already exist.
Thank you. Kind of keeping on this topic of business in Kansas, workforce development is front of many businesses' minds. So our next question, first to you, Representative Neighbor, what would you do to grow and develop the state's workforce?
One of the things that's already being done is we have a lot of technical jobs where there are opportunities, unions are providing that, technical colleges are providing that, and students can enter, they will have a job when they leave because they're high demand areas. We've lost a lot, I mean, our population of electricians, plumbers, all of those are high paying jobs. And we have opened the door for those to go into a community college or a training program. When they come out, they're at an apprenticeship. If they go through the union and their courses, they don't pay anything, and they start with insurance. And then they go into an apprenticeship, at which time they can go through their time in that particular technical business and have a long-term job. Those are the kinds of things that are going to help institute workforce. Community college has a program at the current part. It's for 2 years. If students complete within that period of time in their subject matter, the technical area they're working in, then they also will have free tuition and more than likely a job when they come out. Our high schools are working closely with our community colleges, our colleges, to bring that into effect for our general population. That in itself will relieve many from worrying about college debt.
Thank you. Mr. Whitman, what would you do to grow and develop the state's workforce?
Well, workforce development probably has its root in education. Students have certain passions that they wish to pursue that they discover while they're being taught in school. Those things should be encouraged, discovered, and then encouraged, so that they can be encouraged to place themselves in areas of study that, whether it's technical, vocational, or academic, and they need to be encouraged to pursue those things for which they wish to pursue the rest of their lives. And then once we get those, we need the resources to make sure that they have those opportunities. And those resources are not lacking, but they need to be examined, re-examined, and enhanced and adjusted for where necessary.
Thank you. Mr. Hohe, what would you do to grow and develop the state's workforce?
Well, as far as I see it, I mean, it's basically what's the need. If there's a need for that, I mean, then what we have to do is with our public school system or the school system of our education, is to make sure that we have a foresight in the idea of what jobs will be out there in the coming future. What I'm saying is that if there is a need for an electrician in 3 years from now, then that's what our education system, through technical schools, that we could actually get that to happen. And it's just the way it is. It's sometimes if there isn't a job for an electrician, or they're going to move their feet, they're going to leave Kansas. If there's not a need for it, then why have it? Okay? It's just basic thing. It's having the need of the market. The market, if there's a need in the market that they need an electrician or a plumber or more plumbing companies or builders, this is what it all has to come down to, is we have to have foresight into the future. It's basic, simple stuff. I mean, you just have to be in line with what the needs of the workforce are going to be in the future by educating Kansans, and thus they'll stay in Kansas, and also to have deep roots in Kansas.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to a little bit of discussion about post-secondary education. Mr. Whitman, we'll start with you. What are your views on the state's role with respect to ensuring access and affordability of post-secondary education?
As far as accessibility goes, perhaps you're speaking about the state's policy of taking high school graduates into state universities, admitting them into state universities and colleges. That's a good policy, but we need to. There's probably room for evaluating and counseling high schoolers as to whether that's the right choice for them. As far as affordability, we hear on the news a lot. We hear on the news pretty much annually that tuition goes up. Well, tuition goes up. That doesn't enhance affordability, I don't think. So perhaps we should take a look at what factors go into tuition and see what we can do to maybe change things so that state universities can be a little more affordable.
Thank you. Mr. Hohe, what are your views on the state's role with respect to ensuring access and affordability of post-secondary education?
I'm just, again, here, I just would just say, the idea here is that secondary education, we're really talking about an increase of the education of a person. I mean, if we go back again to the idea about the funding that the state uses for education, if the parent would develop the child and do the homeschooling, microschooling at a lesser cost, and that account grows and comes with them, then that, I think that since they're taxpayers, it's their money, I mean, it should go towards things that could work to benefit Kansas. So if they can get further education, if it stays in Kansas, keep it in Kansas, then that's the way we should have a secondary education to go forward with, by funding it that way. And if there's any barriers towards that it's only the state's responsibility that we only have to get them from K to 12. I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
Thank you. And Representative Neighbor, what are your views on the state's role with respect to ensuring access and affordability of post-secondary education?
Post-secondary education is what provides the opportunities for our students to succeed in whatever area they choose. Technical schools, as I said, oftentimes will have programs that are very affordable and aren't as difficult to get into because of the need. Higher education, as far as the State Board of Regents goes, and we also have a higher education committee in the legislature, and they continually look every year at how tuitions go up, why they're going up, and what can be done to lower them. As an example, this semester at Emporia, they did not raise any tuition at all. In fact, they took everything down $250 for each student. They found ways within their system that they could do that. But not every university or college is the same. We have problems within infrastructure, within some of these buildings. They're old, the cement is falling off, the wires are exposed, there's water draining out in some of these older buildings. It's not sexy to raise money for maintenance. But as far as students are concerned, they have opportunities, grants, the Pell Grants, there are scholarships given by the university and many other groups out there who are looking for people in their field.
Next question then. There has been a lot of discussion about foreign land ownership and or leasing, as well as the purchasing equipment containing foreign manufactured parts. What factors do you consider when attempting to balance national security concerns against free enterprise and private property rights? Mr. Hohe, we'll start with you.
Well, I know that this has been the thing about I'm going to just say it straight up, and I'm going to throw it out there, the Chinese. I mean, there's been an awareness through the United States that basically the Chinese government has been posting spying stations around some of our military and some of our classified areas in the United States. As far as the idea of ownership and stuff like that, I mean, what do? I mean, the thing is if they come to the United States and they're immigrating in the United States, they should have the right to property. As far as the parts go, that's just foreign parts and stuff like that. That's something, a matter of trade between countries. I mean, we receive them, they come into the state, why can't we use them? I'm thinking that's what we're talking about. But again, the one thing that we need to do is, as part of the thing protecting the state of Kansas and the people in Kansas, is to align with the federal government in ensuring the protection of Kansas citizens. And this is also our government facilities. And this is something where we're going to have to start, holding them to the line. I mean, we're not going to have, like in New York one time, they had a Chinese police station in New York City. That's not going to happen. We're going to be we're going to use the KBI, we're going to use the local police, and we're going to work with the FBI.
Thank you. Representative Neighbor, again discussing foreign land ownership and/or leasing, as well as purchasing equipment containing foreign manufactured parts. What factors do you consider when attempting to balance national security concerns against free enterprise and private property rights?
We had two bills this year before us, and they were really very far-reaching. One of the problems was if you had been here for many years and you were a citizen of the United States, but your origin was Chinese or whatever, they could actually make you sell your business if you didn't meet certain qualifications. Only about 1% of the property in Kansas is owned by Chinese outside sources. There's always going to be he said, she said, or they've looked at our country. What are we doing? We're doing the same thing back. And the biggest one was on drones and requiring our police stations and fire departments, whoever was using them, to get rid of those drones and buy new ones that didn't have the chip in them. They were afraid cameras were in there. That's not in anybody's budget, and we weren't offering any funding to replace those kinds of activities. Is it happening? I don't believe so. We didn't see any real proof, but I can't say that it hasn't or that it won't continue. But we have to be ever mindful. Is this realistic? What are we doing to the people that are here that came as immigrants but have their citizenship? Do we take their land away? Do we make our police departments and fire departments throw millions of dollars away? I don't think that's the best way to answer it.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Whitman, again discussing foreign land ownership or leasing, as well as purchasing of equipment containing foreign manufactured parts. What factors do you consider when attempting to balance national security concerns against free enterprise and private property rights?
I think it's something you can determine in terms of land sales to foreign entities as to whether they might be, there might be some national security concerns. We shouldn't be selling land to our adversaries, and they're out there, and it may not be prevalent now, but if we don't examine these things now, then perhaps they'll become more prevalent. There are sensitive areas in Kansas that we probably don't need someone, a foreign actor who is a foreign enemy of ours, setting up buying land next to that facility. So as far as parts go, I'm more of a free market person. We don't need to necessarily restrict access to foreign parts at the state level. That strikes me as more of a national issue that needs to be taken up with the federal government.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to a topic that's been in Kansas news a lot over this last year. And Representative Neighbor, we'll start with you. What are your views on healthcare policy and Medicaid expansion?
I believe that we need Medicaid expansion. We have closed multiple hospitals in rural areas. Rural areas don't have a lot of access like we do to hospitals in our setting. We have clinics that are closed. The affordability or the availability of doctors and staff is very limited. Let's say your mother or your father has a heart attack and your hospital is closed and you don't have anything close by. Heart attacks, if they're not addressed immediately, having worked for the fire department, you've got about a 5 to 7 minute window there to be able to have a chance to save a life. That makes it very limited. So I think Medicaid expansion, because we have more than 150,000 people that are uninsured, not underinsured, uninsured. And being able to have access to good health care is one of the most important things that we can provide for our citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Whitman, again, your view on healthcare policy and Medicaid expansion.
Well, healthcare insurance doesn't guarantee that a doctor will see you. There are doctors out there who will not see Medicaid patients. And I think that needs to be addressed through increasing reimbursements to doctors so that we can encourage them to take more patients, to take more Medicaid patients. Let's eliminate any backlogs or barriers that we have for current people who are on Medicaid and who are maybe on a waiting list for Medicaid. And let's make sure that that the doctor isn't taking a loss by seeing a patient. I mean, there are lots of doctors out there who will see Medicaid patients, and that's good. Let's see if we can increase that number, and let's see if we can increase reimbursements for them. I'm not necessarily in favor of Medicaid expansion. I don't think that's sort of the path that we need to go down. We just need to make the care more available, not necessarily the insurance more available.
Thank you. Mr. Hohe, your views on healthcare policy and Medicaid expansion.
Well, first and foremost, I am not for socialized medicine. It just is not the thing. The thing about this 150,000 uninsured people in the state of Kansas, well, we've been down this road before with the Affordable Care Act. There was a thing where they said 42.5 million Americans did not have health care. Well, the breakdown on that was 10 million were basically doing it out of pocket. They were making $750,000, $1 million. Another 10 million were ones who were $1 million plus. And then there was 10 million who didn't even know how to acquire health care. And the clincher of it is it was 12.5 million undocumented immigrants that were actually going to get health care. These numbers, this 150,000, I've seen 150,000, I've seen 263,000, I've seen all different types of numbers, but there's no raw breakdown of why it is, what's the situation. And as far as healthcare goes, healthcare starts with you. You have to do the proper things to keep yourself healthy. And then the idea about Medicaid is not really so hot. I mean, some doctors will not accept Medicaid because at times in the past, they were only getting 40 cents on the dollar. I mean, if you had a practice, would you be wanting to take 40 cents out of the dollar, all the expenses and being paid going through college and accepting that? I don't think so. And again, I don't like socialized medicine.
Thank you. Moving on now, we'll talk a little bit about local control. Mr. Whitman, we'll start with you on this question. How control over decision-making should be divided among the state legislature and local governments, including our local school boards, on issues such as taxation, economic development, and education has been a matter of debate. What are your views on local control?
Well, probably the better way to go is to have a little more local control. I mean, we grant cities the power to zone, to tax, to develop their cities as their residents see fit through their representatives. The legislature should take on things that are of statewide concern that affect everyone, and that affect everyone, whether you live in a large city, a suburban community, or a small town. I don't really see a lot of problems right now with local control versus state control. Perhaps I'm missing something here. That's not something that the average citizen sees when they turn on their news or read their news.
Thank you. Mr. Hohe, what are your views on local control?
No. Okay. Basically, in the Kansas Constitution, Article 12, Section 5 of the thing, there's a thing called the city home rule. Okay. Now, the thing about it is basically, you got to understand, these cities and these counties, they're collecting taxes to provide the services they feel that their citizenry needs. Okay. And I think the thing is, there should not be any kind of collaboration whatsoever. I mean, the one thing that the state has to do in their taxation and the city county has to do in their taxation is to identify and separate them. Now, we know over the past decade, a lot of people are leaving Kansas because they see tax overall. All taxes, be it come from the county, be it from the state, be it from the city, they see it all at one. The thing is, it's what's destroying it. My thing would be, as far as when you go and vote for county commissioner, don't vote the people who are raising your taxes to extreme amount and wasting your money. As far as the state of Kansas, I'm not going to be doing that. The state representatives have to put a handle on this and take care of their side of it and provide the proper services and tax them properly, and no pork spending, and just start cutting the stuff and just make sure that we provide the services that personal citizens are unable to acquire. Okay.
Thank you. Representative Neighbor, your views on this issue on local control?
I'm a very big supporter of local control for many reasons. The local people know their communities, they know their constituents, they know the needs of their cities and of their counties. We do make laws at the state sometime that overstep the power of the state because we're not looking as to what the long-term effects are. So when we make laws in Topeka, it is really our obligation to look at each issue individually and say, is this our area of coverage or is this not? Does this overstep our bounds? As for instance, food tax. Each city gets to maintain their local food tax. The state is what will not get that money. So I am glad that we opted out on that or separated those, because that's where you get your snow plow. That's where you get your local roads. That's where you get the local option to do what's most necessary to your citizens and your community. It's the same way on the school board. Local control. There are objectives that are given to school boards as to what curriculum is required. But there are also opportunities where you can choose things that might be more efficient and better for your district, such as ag in rural Kansas. So I think local option is extremely important.
Thank you. Well, that is all of the questions that I have, so we will now move on to our closing statements by each candidate. You will each have 1 minute to present a closing statement, giving in a different order than our opening statements. Please be sure to highlight what distinguishes you most from your opponents. And we will start with you, Representative Neighbor.
Thank you again for hosting this event. It's important for our constituents who are at work and can't get away, that they hear the differences between the three of us. I have served in elected office in multiple situations, actually not situations, but areas. Education, the legislature itself. I have a grasp of what it takes to work across the aisle. I understand how policy flows. Laws are not made in a year. Sometimes it could be 10 years because to get the law passed that you suggested. But that's part of the process. That's give and take. I understand that process, and I am willing to do that and to work to make Kansas the best place it can be to raise a family.
Thank you. Mr. Whitman.
I'd like to thank the Chamber for the opportunity to speak at this forum. I think the thing that might distinguish me, not sure it distinguishes me, well, that's for the voter to decide. But I'm more of an economic freedom person, and economic issues are at the forefront of a lot of people's minds right now. We need to make individual people empower them to profit from their work, whether they work for someone, whether they're an entrepreneur, in whatever situation they're at. I'm going to expound on these things on my website, which is robertforkansashouse.com, and I would encourage you to visit that and see what views I might have on a variety of issues, not just the ones that we discussed today.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hohe, your closing remarks.
Well, first and foremost, man, I'm going to say this much. It's time to bring back common sense to Kansas. We are far from common sense in Kansas since 2018. It's time to beat back oppressive restrictions. It's time to return liberty to Kansas. I mean, I really feel that Kansas citizenry can figure their own stuff out, okay? I'm looking at this thing, I'm really big in the idea of the taxation. I mean, I'm trying to come back to this, is the idea, basically this tax structure that Governor Kelly brought out is nothing but a stick and paste of what the flat tax that they did during the summertime. The thing is we should go back to having a better taxation system, a better way of spending. And as far as the education, I think we have to sharpen up education to the best little thing. Another thing is about the idea of entrepreneurialism without barriers. One thing the thing is in the state of Kansas, I just don't like is that the good old boy politics. I think it's time that we basically started freeing Kansas.
Thank you. That concludes our forum for House District 18. Let's thank our candidates for participating in today's program. On behalf of the Shawnee Chamber of Commerce and all of the Johnson County Public Policy Council Chambers of Commerce, thank you for taking advantage of this important opportunity to learn about the candidates. For more information about the candidates, videos of the candidate forums, and advanced voting details, visit www.votejoeho.com. Please share this voter resource with your colleagues, families, and friends, and please get out there and vote. Thank you.